At this man's funeral, the camera captured him waving from inside the coffin, and his daughter immediately screamed. We found this mysterious video online, and while no one knows exactly what happened, we believe it's worth every moment of your attention. This story begins with a father and his daughter, whom he loved more than anything in the world. Emily, the only child of her parents, was affectionately known as Daddy's girl. Her parents, Daniel and Sandra, had her after 17 years of trying to conceive. It's easy to understand why her father would do anything for her, even take a bullet to protect her. Sadly, this perfect relationship grew distant after Daniel made a decision that changed everything. Emily and her dad had always been inseparable. He was the first person to buy her flowers, and she even received her first love letter from him. So it came as no surprise when Emily asked her dad to be her date for prom. Yes, you heard that right. These two continued to do everything together. Unfortunately, when Emily turned 18, their relationship became shaky. Emily had met a guy named Joshua at a restaurant, and a few weeks later, they started dating. This teenager didn't hide anything from her dad, and each time she went out on dates with Joshua, her dad even helped pick her outfits. On December 24, 2020, Emily finally decided to bring her boyfriend to the house. She had told Joshua so much about her dad and how he was going to fall helplessly in love with him. That day, Joshua arrived at the house at 6 p.m., but Daniel wasn't around. However, Emily's mom welcomed him warmly. Everyone had gathered around the table when Daniel finally arrived. Immediately, Emily saw him. She ran toward the door and flung her arms around him. "Dad, Joshua is here. He can't wait to meet you. And please be nice as always," she said. But nothing could have prepared her for what Daniel did. The man walked straight to Joshua, shook his hand, flashed a broad smile, and said, "You are welcome. My daughter has said a lot about you. It's nice to have you here." Afterward, Daniel went into his room and never came out again. About 30 minutes later, Emily went to knock on his door, and what her father told her crushed her soul. "You're making a big mistake. That man isn't good for you. My spirit doesn't agree with him. Ask him to leave now." After Joshua left, Emily tried to assure Daniel that he meant no harm, but Daniel wouldn't listen, insisting he knew what was best for her. Under her dad's pressure, Emily finally broke up with Joshua. Though it left her heartbroken, she truly loved him. A year later, Joshua sent her a photo of his engagement with a message, "I loved you deeply, but you chose your dad over us. I'm happy now with someone who helped me heal, but this ring could have been yours." From that moment, Emily began resenting her dad for pushing her away from someone who genuinely loved her. Without knowing her feelings, Daniel continued as her caring father. Soon, Emily got into college, relieved to finally be miles away from him. One day, when she came home during the holidays, Daniel told her, "Always remember that I love you so much, and I will do anything to make you happy." He also asked her if she was facing any challenges, but Emily told him she wasn't. Well, she lied because, ever since she ended her relationship with Joshua, she hadn't been able to move on, and she had been struggling with dating other men. Years later, Emily graduated college, and her father gifted her a car. That day, the man was just so happy, and he kept screaming, "That's my daughter." At the end of the ceremony, Daniel hugged Emily, but she couldn't meet his gaze. Though she wanted to move on, she still saw the man who had taken away her first love without reason. 3 years later, after graduating and building a successful real estate business with her dad's help, Emily began to miss the bond they once shared. She invited him out to dinner, and he gladly accepted. After their meal, they took a walk, and when Daniel held her hand, old resentments surfaced. But this time, Emily didn't pull away. She wanted to let go of the anger and give forgiveness a chance. Unfortunately, something happened a few months later that completely damaged this once beautiful relationship. About 10 months later, Emily met Eric, 45, a divorced man, and she fell deeply in love with him. At first, she was scared to introduce him to her parents, but 3 months into the relationship, she threw caution to the wind and did the needful. She called her dad into the room and told him everything about Eric and their plans to settle down. Daniel was shocked, but requested to speak with Eric in person before giving his approval. Unfortunately, after their meeting, Daniel told Emily that Eric was bad for her. "I'm a man, and I'm also your father. Eric has nothing to offer you, and you shouldn't trust him. I don't want you to be with him." Daniel was still trying to get Emily to understand him when she suddenly screamed, "You destroyed me once. I will not let you do it again. It's now obvious that you don't want me to be happy. You were wrong about Joshua, and I will not let you take Eric away. I hate you, and I'm walking out of your life." Afterward, she rushed into her room, picked up a few things, and stormed out of the house. Even when her dad screamed her name and reminded her of his undying love, she didn't turn back. If only she knew that was the last time she would ever see her beloved father. Daniel tried to get in touch with his daughter, but she kept ignoring his calls and messages, and this went on for months. She even moved to a different city with Eric, and they lived together. A year later, Emily's mom called her and told her that her dad had suddenly suffered a seizure and that he wanted to see her. But Emily screamed, "I don't ever want to see him. That man doesn't love me." A few weeks later, her mom called again, and this time she told her that Daniel was suffering severe headaches, but Emily thought they were all lies to make her return home. The next call she received sent her world crashing. 3 days later, around 9 p.m., Emily's mom called, and amid tears, she said, "Your name was the last thing he uttered. He also wanted you to know that he never stopped loving you and that he has forgiven you. He is dead, Emily. Your dad suffered a cerebral hemorrhage." For the next few seconds, every beautiful moment Emily had ever spent with her dad flashed before her eyes. She remembered the care and priceless love, and a feeling of regret suddenly overpowered her. "Please come back, Dad. I have never stopped loving you too," she said before she passed out from shock. The next morning, Emily traveled home for her dad's burial. The mass was held at 10 a.m. Afterward, everyone proceeded to the family cemetery. After the pallbearers had lowered Daniel's coffin into the grave, Emily moved closer to the grave and peered intently at it. "I am so sorry, Dad. I love you," she whispered. Just then, she saw something that looked like a hand waving inside the coffin, and she screamed. No one knew why Emily screamed, and she was too shocked to explain. She thought she was the only one who saw it. She believed her dad was trying to tell her that he had forgiven her and was also saying goodbye. A few days later, the footage from the drone came out, and that was when Emily's mom saw the waving hand in the coffin too. She sent the clip to her relatives, and before she knew it, the video went viral. There have been various speculations about the clip. Some believe Daniel was still alive and waved his hand in an attempt to get out, while others suggest it might have been a mouse. Only a few think the movement was due to the decomposition of the corpse. 2 weeks after Daniel's burial, Emily learned that Eric was actually married to another woman. Her dad had been right all along. Emily wished she could have just 10 seconds with her father to hug him tightly and ask for forgiveness. At that moment, all the resentment she once felt toward him disappeared, and she realized she loved her dad more than ever. Emily still brings flowers to her dad's grave, and even though he's gone, she frequently sees him in her dreams. Whenever she does, she says her dad always has a warm, genuine smile, which makes her feel that he is at peace and happy with her. I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.